Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today's video is going to be a chatty get ready with me. It's probably going to be pretty chatty. I have a lot that I want to talk about with you guys today, mainly about things that are coming out in the cruelty-free arena. I'm just going to get started putting on makeup. As usual, everything I'm using will be linked down below. I probably won't be talking much about the products I'm using, although I do want to make sure that I do a look using the Naked Honey palette. A lot of people have asked me to do a look specifically using this palette, so we're gonna do that for sure. What I wanted to talk about mainly is some information that recently came out from a cruelty-free beauty blogger named Jen with My Beauty Bunny. That's the name of her blog. She's one of kind of the main cruelty-free bloggers. She has like a cruelty-free brand list. She's been around for a while, but she posted on her blog just a couple days ago a post titled "Why I'm Adding Wet n Wild, First Aid Beauty, and Others Back to My Cruelty-Free List." And so immediately I was intrigued because I just really wanted to see what she had to say. Why I changed my views on post-market testing in China. I'm gonna link this post down below. I highly recommend that you read it because I'm gonna try to summarize it, but you really need to read it for yourself. Maybe even read it right now and then come back to this video. So if you're not familiar, you know, a few brands have recently sort of been known to lose their cruelty-free status, some of those being Wet n Wild, Physicians Formula, and most recently First Aid Beauty, because they started selling in China. And all three of these brands have really had the same sort of statement, being that, you know, we are still cruelty-free, we are PETA certified. Because of the way that the laws in China have changed in recent times, we are no longer required to do pre-market animal testing on our products. There's a loophole where brands can avoid pre-market animal testing, but the reason why a lot of people in the cruelty-free community still don't consider those brands cruelty-free is because there is still apparently a risk of post-market animal testing, meaning that in the event of, say, a consumer complaint, say a product irritates someone's skin, the Chinese government has the ability to pull those products off the shelves and test them on animals, which is why it's called post-market testing. It happens after the products are already on the market. That is why I haven't been purchasing from those brands. That's why a lot of cruelty-free YouTubers and bloggers have also been avoiding those brands, is just because there was apparently a risk of post-market testing in China. So My Beauty Bunny's blog post basically said that she has kind of changed her perspective on post-market testing. She's been talking with some, she didn't name any specifically, but she's been talking with some nonprofits, brands, and consultants, and one in particular that was linked in her post was called NUDSN Certification and Regulatory Compliance. Basically, it sounds like they help foreign companies expand into China. That's one of the groups that she's been talking with. But she said, and this is all just summarizing from her post, after talking with a bunch of different people, basically, she now believes that post-market animal testing is very unlikely in China, and that it could also happen in the US or in any country. And she makes the very interesting point that regulatory agencies, government authorities, and people in academia, so like scientists and researchers, are generally exempt from animal testing bans in other countries. I did not know that. So in other words, in the EU, a lot of people say, oh, you know, animal testing's been banned in the EU, so we really have nothing to worry about. Apparently what she's saying is post-market testing could even happen in the EU, and she even cited an article of an example of post-market testing happening on like boxed hair dye in the EU. So there is apparently one example of that actually happening in the EU. But she emphasizes throughout the post that it's unlikely to happen anywhere, and she also says that it's equally likely to happen in China, in the US, in the EU. It's equally likely to happen everywhere. I don't know if she has any evidence to back up that the risk is equal across all countries. I feel like it sounds like a little bit of an assumption to me, But I do understand the point she's making that apparently it could happen anywhere. This is just what she's saying. And keep in mind that a lot of the info that she is sharing in this post and a lot of the people that she's talked to are with brands like First Aid Beauty. And of course, brands, you know, they have their own agenda, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily go to First Aid Beauty to learn about Chinese animal testing laws, because they're not experts in that. They're a company that wants to make money. So, you know, I definitely want to keep that in mind when I'm reading this post, because I had to take a break because there was a loud vehicle with its engine running for like 10 minutes nearby, and yeah, but we're back and I don't quite remember where I was. But okay, so my beauty bunny, she says that she feels like with the information she has now, post-market testing could happen anywhere in the world, not just in China, you know, including in places like the EU and in the US. And there has been at least one documented case of post-market testing happening in the EU. So one thing that she really stresses is that this does not mean that all brands that sell in China are now cruelty-free. She's only talking about brands that were getting around the pre-market testing requirement. Brands like Wet n Wild, Physicians Formula, First Aid Beauty. I think she's even including brands like Dove and Herbal Essences here. They are PETA certified, and, you know, people have been considering them not cruelty-free because of post-market testing, but she's adding those brands back to her list. But it's only brands that kind of fall under that category of brands that were getting around the pre-market testing, but were only thought to be at risk for post-market testing. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Please, like, read the article, because I'm just kind of trying to summarize here so that I can kind of share what I think. But she says that there are still brands who sell in China who have animal tests on file as part of China's public record, such as MAC, NARS, and Kiehl's. This is just one side of the story, right? There are gonna be other sides of the story. There are gonna be people who probably disagree with what she's saying. Okay, so I just wanted to come on here and add something really quick. So I have since learned there are two pretty prominent cruelty-free or like animal rights organizations, Humane Society International and Cruelty-Free International, both of which say that post-market testing doesn't happen in countries outside of China. But then again, we do have that example of it happening in the EU. So I don't really know what to make of that. If anything, this just kind of solidifies for me that there's such a lack of transparency with all of these government regulations that we may never really have a clear answer. There may not even really be a clear answer, you know what I'm saying? So I did just want to point that out, though, to say that there are conflicting viewpoints out there, and with both of those, like Cruelty-Free International and Humane Society International, both are pretty reputable organizations, and I would be inclined to believe them over PETA, but that's just my opinion. So who really knows? But I did just want to add that to point out that there are contradicting beliefs out there. I don't know what to think, just to like take a step back, take a little breather for a second. Like I'm sharing all this because I really feel like this needs to open up a conversation, because I mean, I don't know what to think right now. I don't know if I'm gonna start supporting those brands again or not. I feel like we need to talk about this because of the kind of larger implications. Like I said, there was that one example of post-market testing happening in the EU. She links it in her post. Sorry, I keep looking at my notes. She says that she doesn't know if it's happened in the US, but technically it can happen, according to her. And she believes it's just as likely to happen here as it is in China. I don't know if there's evidence to back that up. A consultant told her, I'm guessing it might be that Knudsen Certification and Regulatory Compliance group, they told her that no post-market testing has happened in China in the last few years because it's too expensive and or the results take too long, and they prefer things like human patch tests and other non-animal tests. Supposedly brands would be contacted first and would be allowed to decide between animal and non-animal testing. public record shows that animal testing isn't happening. Just because public record doesn't show it doesn't necessarily mean it's not happening. So let's keep that in mind. But basically she concluded the post by saying we need to target the right enemies at the government level. And she feels like brands like Physicians Formula and Wet n Wild are not really the enemies here. That's that. I read this yesterday and honestly, I feel like my blush looks a little ridiculous. Hang on a second. I read this yesterday and it kind of just sent me spiraling because it kind of confirmed some things for me that I've been thinking about a lot. I touched on it before briefly in a video a while ago about how I've been kind of uncomfortable with the way that the cruelty-free community talks about China and brands selling in China. It almost seems to me like it stems from a place of xenophobia and racism. I'm more than willing to be wrong about that, but I have seen very, very racist comments, not on my channel, but on other social media, whenever anything about a brand selling in China is brought up. Disturbingly racist things being said. And I'm not saying that that applies to all of us. I mean, I've been boycotting brands that sell in China myself, so I'm just trying to process what all of this actually means. Honestly, I still need to do a lot more research, and like I said, I don't know what to think. I feel like I'm having a little bit of an identity crisis right now. I think back to a video that I saw from a YouTuber I love. Her channel is Raw Paint. It's a video she did, it had to have been over a year ago at this point, but I haven't stopped thinking about that video ever since I watched it. But her video, please watch it. I'll link it down below once again. I think I've talked about it before. But she was talking about the nuances of being a quote-unquote cruelty-free consumer. And it really offered a different perspective to me. And the takeaway, really, it got me thinking about how cruelty-free is such a small piece of the puzzle when it comes to what makes a brand quote-unquote ethical. Yet it gets such an arbitrarily ginormous amount of attention. And, you know, I've had a lot of conflicting thoughts about brands selling in China because on one hand, you know, when Wet n Wild moved into China, I watched another video from Unnatural Vegan, which I'll also link below, about why she still considers Wet n Wild cruelty-free. She was basically saying, like, in her opinion, the risk of post-market testing in China is so low that she doesn't feel like it makes sense to boycott that brand because, you know, it's also making an otherwise, I don't know, like, I feel like we could look at it as a spectrum. Like, Wet n Wild, in my opinion, is more cruelty-free than NARS. Or L'Oreal. I mean, even Jen from My Beauty Bunny said that there are animal tests on file for MAC and NARS. I don't know if there are any on file for Wet n Wild. The lack of transparency is another there's so much that we'll never even know as consumers. I mean, you know, at the government level there's a lack of transparency, but from brands there's a lack of transparency. There's only so much that we'll ever even know. But Unnatural Vegan made the point that, you know, what about people who live in mainland China who want to be able to buy cruelty-free? Of course, there is the option of purchasing online. Brands can sell to China via e-commerce and still be cruelty-free. But, as you know, brands being sold in stores in mainland China, technically, according to what we've been saying for all this time, is that brands can't sell to people in stores in mainland China and still be cruelty-free. You know, and that makes me wonder, like, what's the point of a brand staying out of China? I just have so many questions, so many questions. You know, I don't even know if I'm making sense right now. I'm kind of just thinking out loud here, but what I'm wrestling with is the fact that I think we all want this to be like a very easy, clear-cut, black and white issue. Like, either a brand is cruelty-free or they're not. Either a brand sells in China and they're not cruelty-free, or they don't sell in China and, you know, they otherwise are. But what I think I'm realizing is that it's never been that simple. It's way more complicated than that. It's a lot messier than we'll ever understand. There's such a lack of transparency that there's so much we'll never even be able to know. And the cruelty-free issue gets so much attention while there's so many other, perhaps even more important, I don't know. I mean, I'm not here to weigh which ethical issues are more important than others, but you know, there's so much else that we should be talking about. There's like, you know, what about child labor? What about brands treating their employees terribly? What about, you know, racism and harassment in these otherwise cruelty-free companies? I have been really uncomfortable with the term cruelty-free ever since I watched Raw Paint's video, because it's just such a loaded term. Cruelty-free, by definition, it's used to describe a brand's animal testing stance, basically. It only covers animal testing. That's a very small, it's an important issue, but it's one of many issues. And so I feel like it's just been like trying to be a perfectionist about it, and I'm mainly talking to myself here, is not really necessary. Regardless of what my beauty bunny is saying about those brands and post-market testing in China, regardless of all that, I think, like, after reading her post, I really just started realizing, like, does it even matter? We're probably never gonna know the answers. I don't even know if there is an answer. We're trying to turn this issue into something so simple and black and white, and it's just not. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, you know what? I really, in this society, I believe that there's no such thing as fully ethical consumption. And I feel like we need to look at a brand's ethics more as a whole, as opposed to just defining them by either cruelty-free or not. And if anything, how ethical a brand is, really, it falls on more of a spectrum than anything. You know, it's never gonna be black and white in this society. It's just not. And so with all of that in mind, I'm really trying to figure out like how much I even want to hold on to the cruelty-free label anymore. And the last thing I want to do is be like, oh, you know, there's no such thing as a 100% cruelty-free ethical brand, so we just shouldn't even try. Like, that is the furthest thing from what I believe. I always want to do my best to, you know, support brands that at least somewhat align with my values, and one of those really important values to me has always been animal rights. I love animals. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been an animal lover. Like, I'm sure a lot of you can relate. You know, when I first learned about animal testing, I was like, of course I don't want to support that. You know, how can I take this out of my beauty routine? And that's not going to stop being an important issue to me, but I just think, like, animal testing is one important piece of the puzzle, but we need to stop viewing that as like the end-all be-all. We need to stop acting like, you know, cruelty-free is like, you know, this proud badge that we can wear. Like, it doesn't make us any better than anyone else. I'm just really wrestling with a lot of feelings right now. Like I said, it's almost like, it feels like I'm having a little bit of an identity crisis because I'm used to labeling myself as cruelty-free. It's been a big part of my channel, and you know, that I'm not gonna start supporting just, you know, brands that definitely test on animals like NARS and stuff. Like, that's just, I don't see the point in that, really. But part of me kind of just wants to drop the cruelty-free label altogether. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. What do you guys want me to do? Because, like I said, with all of this information from my beauty bunny, and I need to keep looking into it because I don't have any answers right now. I don't know. There's a lot that I need to keep researching. But all of that aside, I'm just feeling so conflicted because it feels silly to keep placing so much emphasis on cruelty-free and nothing else. But I also firmly believe that cruelty-free is a really good starting point to, you know, trying to become a more mindful consumer. I don't think I need to make any big decisions right now. I don't have any answers, but I know the cruelty-free piece is really important to a lot of you. That's, you know, a big reason why a lot of you follow me. So I want to know what you guys are thinking, or how you feel about all this, because I do think that, you know, we don't all have to agree with my Beauty Bunny's stance on all of this, but I think that it opens up a really important conversation about, like, who do we really need to be putting the blame on? You know, shouldn't it be more focused on government regulations and less on, like, individual consumers telling individual consumers this is what you should be purchasing and this is what you shouldn't? It opens up a really important conversation, and I'm very glad that she posted that and shared a different perspective, because it just kind of gets you thinking. I kind of just want to start looking at brands more as a whole and not just trying to fit it into this simple binary, this simple algorithm of, like, either they're cruelty-free or they're not. Like, yes, that's still gonna be an important issue to me, but I don't even know if I want to keep using the word cruelty-free. Like, it's an easy way to refer to a brand's animal testing stance, but it's just, the term itself bothers me because it doesn't mean that a brand is free from cruelty. It doesn't mean that the brand is automatically ethical. But at the same time, I feel like people use that almost as a reason to not even try, because they're like, oh, there's no such thing as cruelty-free. You know, like, cruelty-free doesn't mean anything about, you know, child labor or this or that, which I know. But I feel like people almost use that as a reason to just not even try. And that's, like I said, that's never what I want to do. This might be my favorite eye look that I've done with this Naked Honey palette so far. So anyway, really the point of this video was not to, like, inform you, because, like I said, I don't know anything. Like, I'm just trying to figure things out myself. I really just want to encourage everybody to kind of, like, think for yourself. Don't turn to bloggers and YouTubers to decide for you how you feel about something. Like, yes, there are great resources out there that we should absolutely be using. My Beauty Bunny and Logical Harmony and others, you know, being great resources. But at the end of the day, you have to decide for yourself what matters to you and where you draw the line, and nobody can decide that for you. I just felt like I wanted to sit down and talk and, like, kind of bounce my thoughts off of you guys and figure out, like, how you guys are feeling, because I don't know, like, this channel is not just for me. Like, I'm not just sitting here talking to a wall. Like, I want it to be useful to you. So how are you feeling about cruelty-freeness? Obviously, I can't please everybody, and at the end of the day, I have to stay true to myself and what matters to me. But I do see, what I can tell you is I see my channel, oh my gosh, sort of evolving a little bit past hyper-focusing on cruelty-free. Is this the lip I want to wear today, or am I don't actually, maybe this one. Ultimately, I want my channel to be about mindful consumerism. I don't know if I even need the cruelty-free label anymore. I did want to mention, with consent, of course, I got permission to share a message I got from somebody on Instagram yesterday, but she said, personally, the cruelty-free community at large has given me racist vegan vibes. Like, I get the rationale behind it, but it always felt like virtue signaling masked as anti-Asian politics. Which is something I'd been kind of feeling, but not necessarily able to put into words, which she put into words everything that I was sort of thinking. And then she said, that isn't to say that one shouldn't care about animal cruelty, but I think in the end you have to find brands that fit your ethics. But as I've told people on multiple occasions for years, that there is no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism. Clean, organic, cruelty-free become less about trying to make a more ethical world and more of it becoming an at times classist identity. Wow. Beautifully worded, and just kind of sums up what I've been feeling but haven't been able to quite put into words. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that, but let's talk about this eye look. So I used the shade Sweet to start out the crease. Then I put some of Drip in my outer corner, and then sort of a mix of, what did I put a mix of? Keeper and Drip in my inner corners, and then in the center I used the shade Honey, which is that really pretty yellowy gold shade. I think I might have used Hive as well, kind of in the crease a little bit. Kind of just a mix of Drip, Hive, and Keeper, and Honey in the center. So I think that's my favorite look that I've done with this palette so far. Honestly, this palette is a lot more like orangey bronze than I was expecting. That's probably my bad. Like if I had maybe looked a little closer at the individual shades, I would have seen that before I bought it, but I was definitely expecting more of a golden yellowy color story, and it really is mainly very like bronzy and orange, which I don't mind. It's just it's different than what I was expecting for some reason. Regardless, I am really enjoying this palette. The lip I put on is the Clove and Hallow lip. I think it's their lip velvet. It doesn't say on here. In Fiesta. It's basically a liquid lip, but I really like that color. That, I think, is gonna have to be all for today's video. I feel like I could keep talking for hours, but I think I just want to turn it over to you guys and hear what you have to say. Like I said, I kind of opened up the video talking about the post from my beauty bunny, but I really just wanted that to open up kind of a deeper conversation. I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out what to think, and it's almost a little comforting to just be like, to remove yourself from it for a minute and be like, we're probably never gonna have the answers. Ultimately, like, I just want to emphasize, I don't know what this means for my channel. Don't think that I'm just gonna like completely change up my channel. Like I think it's gonna be kind of a slow, gradual change or journey, if you will, but we need to think about it. We need to talk about it. Let's have a conversation. I'm really looking forward to reading your comments and talking with you guys in the comments. Okay, that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you've not already. I'd love to see you again soon. I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. The next video hopefully will be a little more lighthearted. I do have a declutter coming up. Very exciting. I know a lot of people like those. So anyway, I'll see you guys soon, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.